From the Broadcast Center at BCIT's Burnaby Campus, this is All Talk Radio. You're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Hello and welcome to the 1:30 newscast. I'm Joseph Augusti, and thanks for tuning in to 1680 The Crow. Heated exchange between protesters and counter-protesters are taking place across the country over school policies on gender identity. Posters created by a group called 1 Million March for Children say rally participants are standing together against what they call gender ideology in the nation's schools. Here are the sounds of the protest. The protests are linked to policies across the country, including in New Brunswick and Saskatchewan, that require young people to get parental consent before the teachers can use their preferred names and pronouns. But the rallies are being met with counter-protesters who say the policies are a violation of children's rights and that transgender youth should not be outed by their parents to teachers. BC's Human Rights Commissioner has called the protests hate-fueled events. BC Attorney General Nikki Sharma says the province will be taking every step it can to protect people in the community from violence if they're under threat. Premier David Eby says he needed more information from the federal government so the province could protect people at risk, but Sharma says she understands the delicate nature of the situation.
I respect the protections that need to be put in place around information during a time of investigation, but what I do know is that this province and all of us will participate in any way we can with this investigation to make sure we get to the truth.
Federal Immigration Minister Mark Miller is urging everyone to stay calm after India issued a travel warning to students to use caution in Canada.
Let's be clear, Canada is a safe country and will remain a safe country. At the same time, emotions are running high and we've asked everyone to stay calm.
Local politicians in British Columbia have passed all 3 resolutions asking the province to boost funding and regulation around the drug decriminalization pilot program, including expanding possession and use prohibitions to parks and sports fields. Delegates at the Union of BC Municipalities Convention in Vancouver voted to request the province immediately provide funding for addiction support services such as treatment, detox, overdose prevention, and safe supply on a geographically accessible basis. At the Union of BC Municipalities Convention, Health Minister Adrian Dix spoke on wildfires. Our reporter Zach Clark has more.
British Columbia Minister of Health Adrian Dix shared his views on the ever-worsening wildfires BC continues to face. With talks moving away from prevention and more to mitigation, Dix doesn't think wildfires are a problem that can be fully stamped out.
In short, we have to build a cross-system, so the health system, but also every other system, working together to respond to what's going to be a permanent part of summer and maybe spring and fall as well.
Other climate and fire experts spoke at the convention and shared Dix's viewpoints that this is a problem that will only continue to get worse every summer. Dix asked Canadians to be prepared for wildfire smoke by buying air filters and wearing masks if the smoke is especially bad. Zach Clark, 1680 The Crow.
With coyotes comes caution. Reporter Max Mashman tells you how to keep your canine safe from the cunning creatures.
In the wake of a week with a total of 9 coyote attacks, BC residents may be asking how to handle themselves around the canine, especially if they have canines themselves. According to Nadia Zanakis of the SPCA, coyotes are often more scared of your dog than your dog is of them, and a lot of perceived aggression from coyotes towards dogs is to protect their pups. When it comes to smaller dogs, Zanakis says,
So first, I would just recommend never leaving your dog unattended in a yard for long periods of time, particularly if they're a small dog.
Zanakis went on to say, if you're taking your dog out at night, it is good to flash the light to make sure there's no wildlife in your immediate surroundings. Max Mashman, 1680, The Crow.
The UEFA Champions League group stage continues today. Canadian superstar Alphonso Davies' Bayern Munich are up against English giants Manchester United. Bayern currently lead 3-1 in the second half. It's going to be a bright and sunny day here in Burnaby with sunshine throughout the day. It's going to be a high of 18 degrees with temperatures hovering in that area all afternoon. Expect a cool, cloudy night. And that was your 1:30 newscast. I'm Joseph Augusti for 1680 The Crow.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretnero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
Hannah Miller became the first BC-born player drafted into the PWHL on Monday, when the new Toronto franchise selected her 74th overall. Hannah's career has taken her from St. Lawrence University in New York to the Kunlun Red Star in China. She even played for the Chinese women's national team in the 2022 Beijing Winter Olympics and scored the country's first Olympic goal in 12 years. But now, the North Vancouver native is returning home to play women's pro hockey in a brand new league. I spoke with Hannah about her journey to the PWHL and what the league's arrival could mean for women's hockey in British Columbia. First of all, being drafted by Toronto yesterday, how exciting is that to be drafted by Toronto?
Yeah, obviously, super exciting. I think you look at the talent pool in the league, and just everyone who was entered the draft, and it's just first of all just like such an honor. There's so many good players, and then to be drafted by Toronto, I mean, get to stay in my home country. Some familiar faces there, which is kind of nice. And for the last little bit, I've been a huge Toronto Maple Leafs fan as well. So that's kind of an exciting part for me too, to be in that city. A lot of rich sports history there. A lot of already well-established, great professional teams. So I think it'll be a super exciting thing to be a part of.
And you mentioned coming back to playing in North America, in your home country and everything. You obviously spent the last few years playing in China. What is it like? What does it mean to be returning to playing pro hockey in North America again?
Yeah. I think I wouldn't trade my international overseas experience for anything. It was, it's amazing to travel to new places, meet new teammates from, all over the world, and get a different experience like that. But I think it's extra special after kind of being away for so long to kind of come back and hopefully get to play in front of some family and friends, which I haven't been able to do in a long time. So that's exciting for me too.
Yeah, and I imagine, but obviously you played through some pretty cool moments out in China as well, including in the Olympics and everything. And obviously your first season out there, I believe, was in the CWHL before it folded. And having seen how women's hockey has progressed in that time from watching from a distance, what do you feel about the PWHL setup specifically that sets it apart from some of the last few iterations of women's pro hockey?
Yeah, I think, it's just, everything is growing. Everything needed to start somewhere. And, the leagues of the past and the players of the past, everyone's been, a part of getting to this point. But I think now it's just, more backing, more professional, kind of just going to be done right. And that's basically having the, you see it, you can believe it, and you can be it. So I think, it's super exciting moving forward for all the young girls, and that's really what it's about is, having those young girls, those college girls, looking at something and seeing that they can play somewhere professionally, not have to get a job, and kind of look forward to that, continuing their playing career professionally. So
that actually segues really well into my next question, which is just what do you think that this league's just existence and what it will and how and the amount of media attention it's going to be getting over the next little while and everything will do for expanding women's hockey in North America?
Yeah, I think it's just going to give the players more exposure. Everyone knows about the national teams and the Olympics, and everybody watches that, and the rivalry series there in North America that Canada and USA has had. So I think just bringing the exposure to it, easier access to being able to watch games. And men's professional sports has had that for a while, and I think that's really the key. Girls are going to be able to sit down and see it. It's going to be in front of them more, and I think that's important to just have someone that looks like you, or have that representation. So it's more relatable, and it's something that you can dream to be a part of one day as well.
Yeah, and I imagine that is something that you didn't particularly grow up with as much as girls today are, and like growing up in the Lower Mainland in Vancouver, in North Vancouver and everything. What was the women's hockey landscape like around the Lower Mainland when you were growing up?
Yeah, I mean, as far as watching hockey on TV, I definitely, was watching the national team and the Olympics and everything like that. And but definitely was watching a lot of NHL and men's professional because that's generally what has been on like mainstream television. But yeah, growing up in North Vancouver, I actually had really good experience playing for the North Shore Avalanche there, and going to provincials and playing in our local BC league. I think it was, there's a lot of really good players out of that league if you go back who have, gone on to play NCAA hockey or U Sports and national team as well. So some of my fondest memories are back playing with friends when you're young and you're just doing it for the fun of it, and that's kind of what it's all about still. Everyone has a huge passion for this game, and it's just amazing now that it's going to be able to be a career for girls moving forward. So it's exciting.
Yeah, where have you noticed the most changes in terms of the women's game, particularly in terms of the grassroots programs and everything, in whether it's here in BC or in just across the world? Where have you noticed that the most difference from, say, when you were starting out professionally to now?
Yeah, I think it's just the depth of the quality, right? I think it's continually progressing. Everyone's getting better. Even the younger players that I played on, Team China, the college girls or whatever. Everyone's so fast. Everyone's training more. There's more skill, and hopefully the numbers just keep increasing and more girls keep joining up and seeing the exposure, seeing us on TV and saying, hey, you know what, I wanna start playing hockey, and that's really what it's all about, because sports is it's an amazing thing at the end of the day.
What do you think could be done in terms of from British Columbia's standpoint? What do you think people could be doing, whether that's like volunteering or something bigger than that, to kind of raise more awareness for women's hockey around here?
Yeah, I mean that's a tough question. I think this league is going to be an amazing start. I think if there's just that exposure again, I know I'm saying it over and over, but seeing it on TV, having little girls just see it, there's definitely going to be a surge in interest in wanting to play sports. But yeah, I think when you're a kid playing and it's all about volunteer. The coaches are volunteering their time, so just making sure that you have good people in those places, and they're making it fun and getting involved in the community as well, and kind of just bringing people together.
Now, obviously, I know you're not in charge of any of the upper management stuff, the how the league operations or anything like that. But as just from a personal standpoint, how likely do you think it is that we'll see Vancouver either in the mix for an exhibition game for the PWHL at some point, having heard that there are going to be some neutral site games, or even an expansion team in the PWHL? How likely do you think it is we'll see that down the road at some point?
Yeah, I'm not sure, but that would be amazing. To get back to Vancouver for an exhibition game or something like that would be incredible. Definitely very exciting things to look forward, and I think getting these 6 teams up and running and having a really strong first season for us, and then we can look to expansion after that. But definitely it's an exciting time.
And then I guess for my last question, I'd be remiss. You mentioned the Leafs being a team you really enjoyed. Who are the teams and the players that inspired you as you were growing up?
Yeah, I mean, I think classic. I always loved Sidney Crosby kind of growing up. Just plays the game the right way, and it's just a fun guy to watch and kind of try to model your game around. But obviously, national team players as well. Haley Wickenheiser. But lately with Toronto, since he's been drafted and was in the NHL, I've been a huge fan of Austin Matthews. So. Yeah, it'll be exciting to hopefully get to watch some of their games as well and see their support for us too.
My thanks to Hannah Miller for her time. You'll be able to see her and her Toronto teammates in action when the PWHL drops the puck this January. I'm Lachlan Irvin for 1680 The Crow.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretnero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikki-King.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretanero.
And I'm Radhika Sikki-King. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
From the Broadcast Center at BCIT's Burnaby Campus, this is All Talk Radio. You're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Good afternoon, I'm Riley Lung, and you're tuning in at 1680 The Crow. It's currently 2:30 p.m. Starting off today, thousands of people across Canada rallied for protests on sexuality and gender identity in schools. At Queen's Park, Toronto, large crowds of protesters and counter-protesters were being separated by police. Protests are linked to school policies that require young people to get parental consent before teachers can use their preferred first names and pronouns. Caitlin Langiller, one of the counter-protesters who came out to support LGBTQ youth, says she felt empowered by the large crowds in support of transgender youth.
It's important to show up and show support for trans and LGBT youth, especially with the surge in anti-LGBT and trans rhetoric that we're seeing in Canada and the United States.
A new RBC survey suggests financial uncertainty has become the new norm for many Canadians, caused by the rising inflation eating into their savings, hampering their future financial security. Emily Javeski has the story.
77% of respondents say they're not able to save as much as they would like to, while roughly half say they've never been more stressed about money. Craig Bannon, Director of Regional Finance Planning Support at RBC, says more than 1/3 of Canadians don't have an emergency fund, further weakening their financial flexibility. If inflationary pressures continue into next year, the poll finds 72% of respondents with debt are worried about taking on more debt, while 21% said they might have to come out of retirement. Emily Joveski, The Canadian Press.
And speaking of finance, the Bank of Canada was watching its words at its last interest rate announcement, as it sought to avoid spurring speculation that rate cuts are on the table anytime soon. Najord Alamis has more on that.
That's according to the central bank's summary of deliberations released today that detailed the Governing Council discussions leading up to its last rate decision. The Bank of Canada held its key interest rate steady at 5% earlier this month amid signs of a weakening economy. The summary says that although the Governing Council decided holding rates steady was the right decision for now, it considered the possibility that its decision could be misinterpreted as a sign that rates will not rise further or that rate cuts are coming. To curb this risk, the Bank of Canada decided to emphasize that it will monitor incoming economic data and assess whether rates need to rise further. Najura Amalis, Canadian Press, Ottawa.
Canada's federal housing advocate says the eviction of more than 30 encampment residents in Prince George, BC was a serious human rights violation, stating the city did not ensure or provide safe and adequate housing alternatives. The city of Prince George evicted encampment residents at the Millennium Park on September 11th. 11 days before, residents were given eviction notices, saying that the encampment was unsafe for residents and first responders. In light of Adrian Dix stating that wildfires are going to be an ongoing issue every summer, our reporter Zach Clark is finding ways for Canadians to prepare for the smoke.
With wildfires now a permanent part of British Columbian summers, with that comes risks to your lung health. The government has asked Canadians to prepare for the smoke with air filters and N95 masks, but that has drawn the question, should the government be doing more to help its citizens prepare? Sarah Butson, Public Affairs and Policy Analyst for the Canadian Lung Association, believes that while government measures are needed, citizens can also help prepare for the smoke themselves.
There are things, of course, that Canadians can do from an education and awareness perspective and a prevention perspective. But ultimately, we do want to be looking at what are some of those broader climate-related policy measures that we can be implementing to help improve air pollution.
Canadians can check the Air Quality Health Index to see smoke levels in their neighborhoods. Zach Clark, 1680 The Crow.
We have Zach here on the phone right now. So Zach, what should citizens do, especially on smoky days?
Citizens should try and stay indoors on very smoky days. Keep doors and windows shut and invest in a quality air filter. But if travel is unavoidable, wearing an N95 mask limits the number of harmful smoke particles that will be breathed in.
All right. What kind of air filters is best for wildfire smoke, though?
Well, you want an air filter that will trap all the smoke particles. So you need a HEPA, or high-efficiency particulate air-grade filter. It should also have a high clean air delivery rate, or CADR. Having an air filter that's made for your space is important, too. Different filters are designed for different sized buildings, and getting one that's too big or too small can cause less efficient filtration.
All right. Thank you, Zach, for being here with me. A transport truck carrying a large square container slammed into an overpass in North Vancouver on Tuesday, causing a massive holdup on traffic on Highway 1 for hours. RCMP says the driver fled the scene that caused the container to be wedged under the Main Street overpass of Highway 1. North Van RCMP have issued a $368 ticket to the company that owns the truck because the driver failed to remain at the scene. Engineers have deemed the overpass structurally safe and no one was injured at the collision. A study done by Canada's convenience store industry says that as much as 45% of BC's tobacco sales could be illegal. The report done by the Convenience Store Industry Council of Canada looked at illegal cigarette sales in BC, Ontario, and Newfoundland. The report states that BC has lost an estimate as much as $250 million in taxes to illegal sales from 2019 to 2022. The industry is trying to make penalties tougher for illegal cigarette traffickers to fight the problem. The United Auto Workers Union is threatening to expand its strike on Detroit's 3 biggest car makers unless it sees major progress in contract negotiations by Friday. Julius Joy, a union auto worker at General Motors plant, and says they want a fair deal.
I'm hoping it won't last very long, but I'm going to tell you I'm prepared personally to stay on strike for as long as it takes.
Iran's parliament has approved a bill to impose heavier penalties on women who refuse to wear mandatory Islamic headscarves in public and those who support them. The vote on Wednesday came days after the anniversary of the death of a 22-year-old woman who was detained by morality police for violating the country's dress code and later died in custody. Her death ignited months of protests across the country and internationally and called for the overthrow of Iran's theocracy. The new bill extends punishments to business owners who serve women who aren't wearing the mandatory headscarves and activists against it. Violators could face up to 10 years in prison. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy says there's still time left to do the seemingly impossible, to avoid a government shutdown at month's end. Sagar Magani has more on the story.
McCarthy has 10 days left to get a temporary funding bill passed.
It's not September 30th. The game is not over.
And he's not giving up.
I don't know if any of you ever played sports. Did you quit before the game was over?
But McCarthy has no clear strategy and no sure support, with hardline conservatives holding out in the Senate.
The answer for avoiding a shutdown is right in front of Speaker McCarthy, and he knows it.
Democratic leader Chuck Schumer says McCarthy must give up trying for a GOP-only solution and work across the aisle. Some House Republicans are doing just that on their own. Sagar Magani, Washington.
The Seattle City Council has adopted an ordinance that makes illegal drug use and possession a gross demeanor after rejecting a similar measure earlier this summer. The council voted 6-3 to approve the measure on Tuesday. It aligns with city's code with the new state law making possession of and public use of drugs such as fentanyl a gross demeanor. State lawmakers have been under pressure to pass a bill this year because a temporary law that made international drug possession illegal was due to expire July 1st. Unless the legislature passed a new law, drug possession would have been decriminalized under state law. Both measures encourage police to divert people to services that rather than arrest them. In hockey, Canucks defenseman Tucker Poolman will start the upcoming NHL season on a long-term injured reserve as he's continuing to recover from migraines. Canucks general manager Patrick Alvin says Pullman will not be with the team when it opens training camp on Thursday in Victoria. Pullman has signed a 4-year, $10 million contract with the Canucks before 2021 and 2022 season. His migraine issues limited him to playing only 40 games in his first season with the Canucks. He attempted to return to the arena last season, appearing in only 3 games before being sidelined again. In football, the BC Lions will be hosting the 3rd annual Orange Shirt Day game on Friday, September 29th, marking Canada's National Day for Truth and Reconciliation with a variety of events and activities. BC Lions will be going up against the Saskatchewan Roughriders wearing a special warm-up jerseys, which will be raffled off in support of the Orange Shirt Society and Residential School Survivors Society. The team will present $20,000 to the Orange Shirt Society and provide 753 free tickets to residential school survivors. The Toronto Maple Leafs leader met with media today on the eve of training camp. Star winger Mitch Marner was asked why he believes the season will be different after last season's playoff breakthrough and a summer of changes to the front office and locker room.
Every year we just build more trust within each other. Obviously every year we grow older and wiser, and I've gone through some obviously tough experiences with each other, but just as a group, I don't think we let it really weigh on us too much. We realize that it's a new season. It's a new opportunity for us to show who we are again. We're excited for it.
Alabama's high school band director says he was just doing his job before police officers shocked him with a stun gun and arrested him after he refused to stop a band as it played on the bleachers following a football game. Johnny Mims, the band director at Minor High School, said he was confused when officers pulled him to the side from the podium to arrest him during last Thursday's game. Mims says he believed he didn't do anything wrong. On to the weather. Metro Vancouver is forecast to have a nice sunny day with 0 chances of seeing rain. It's currently 15 degrees Celsius, looking at a high of 18 degrees and a low of 11. Thursday is looking to be the exact same with a sunny day, but a tad warmer with a high of 22 degrees. Friday will also be the same with low winds. But take advantage for these 3 days because the forecast is looking at rain all weekend. I'm Riley Lung, and you're listening to 1680 The Crow. Thank you for tuning in.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the lower mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikki-King.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretnero.
And I'm Radhika Sikki-King. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.